morning, everybody, and welcome to our Around the World in 80 Minutes. We've got quite an ambitious and exciting hour and 20 minutes ahead of us, and we're going to take you on a bit of a journey. Firstly, just really like to thank Absa for sponsoring this really cool webinar that we put together in partnership with Le Coquin, Saxon, the Four Seasons, and Myresidence. We're going to hear from everybody. I'm going to introduce the panelists as they come in one by one. You'll know who they are, but I'll give them an introduction before we have our conversation. But interspersed between those conversations around the world of banking, we're going to go on a bit of a journey around the world. Starting here in South Africa with a heritage brand of Inverroche Gin. Now, it is quite early, but I do encourage you to participate if you can. We're going to discuss Inverroche Gin and their particular journey before they joined the Pernod Ricard house. I believe we have a video to play now.
There are only two stories in life, the ones we write and the ones that get written for us. But for us who call Africa home, it is the story we chose to write that has earned us a place in history. Welcome to the greatest story ever told. A story that has its origins in the very place where humanity began, where herds of giant eland, elephants and giraffes once roamed, where the fynbos gently undulates while giving life at secret sunsets, where the rarest of Mother Nature's gifts is fused with the science of alchemy. It is the story of survival and creativity, of women, the first scientists, teachers, healers, and master chefs. A story of respect, collaboration, and nurturing. It pays homage to those pioneers who gave birth to new life. The story of Inverroche is a story about resilience, ingenuity, and community, handcrafted with love, distinguished, and authentic. Inverroche was envisioned as an instrument of change, celebrating the role of women as the original custodians of nature and our humanity. My brand was created to ignite a new flame, with women at its center, to reimagine the future. This is the greatest story ever told, and yet, it is a story without an ending, because it is still being written. And we would like you to be part of it. Let the conversation begin. This is Africa Calling.
African ancestral alchemy. I think that's such a wonderful way to start this morning's session and our voyage around the world in 80 minutes. And some real key themes emerged there. I'm sure many of you saw the presidential debates in the United States last night and were perhaps not overly impressed with the level of debate. We have our own challenges here in South Africa, and globally we're all facing financial challenges and indeed handling the pandemic. And I think holding on to some of those core founding values of Inverroche around resilience, collaboration, and creativity are going to be critical. And alchemy is something I think we could all use a bit of in terms of redefining how our businesses operate in this new context. I'm now going to ask Gedeon Rossouw, who's head of client care at Absa CIB, to switch on his video, switch on his microphone, and join us. Goeiemorgen, Gedeon, welcome.
Hi,
and
Leon.
We're going to give you welcome. We're going to give you the task of linking that Inverroche piece and the concept of alchemy and mixology and bringing flavors and ingredients together to create something special in the context of what you do. So perhaps it would be really good for you to give us an introduction of who you are, what you actually do at Absa, and then we can jump into some questions exploring the similarities between mixology and banking.
Fantastic. Thanks, Leon, and good morning to the listeners. So yes, I look after client care for Absa CIB, and my job is pretty much exactly what it says, client care. So we spend a lot of time getting our frontline colleagues to care as much as possible for our clients, to really understand them deeply enough to the extent that they can really add value to their businesses. So our job is really to spend as much time as possible understanding clients, gathering data points on them, and then using those interactions to continuously optimize our experiences with them.
Could you possibly draw any similarities between mixology being, I mean, there's several types of mixology. There's like DJs creating great musical blends, but equally here, we're looking at it from a gin mixing and African flavor perspective. What similarities can you draw to how you manage your clients and that of mixology?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think with so many endeavors in life, for you to really be the best at what you do, you need to find that delicate balance between the science and the art of what you do. So the science piece kind of being technically really being good at what you do, understanding how mixology or gin making works, or from our perspective, how banking works, how to structure a deal, understand the finances, understand your clients and the economy.
Yeah.
But that only makes half of the story. The second half is in the art piece. And that's really around having a love and a passion for what you do, and being able to be creative in what you do. And it's only really when you blend those two that the magic really starts happening. And that's why for us, person job fit is so important. It's one thing to have someone that's brilliant at finance, but if they don't love what they do, and if they're not excited about their clients and want to add value for their clients, it's kind of quite a mundane relationship between the two. So for me, balancing that art, really, really important.
So extending that metaphor then, and actually what you've already started to do is describe what essentially are the key ingredients to a fantastic cocktail of a good client relationship. Do you perhaps want to expand on what those ingredients might be, and what you do at Absa and what you do personally in creating those great client relationships?
Yeah, of course. Great question. So I think first and foremost, it's accepting that there aren't any shortcuts. The ingredients is building that mutually beneficial relationship. If you just try and push a product like a gin, sell the gin the easiest, fastest way you can, it's probably not going to last very long. So it's all around building a product and a service that's mutually beneficial, because only if your clients grow, you grow. So I think that's the first ingredient. I think secondly, just really being honest and authentic about everything you do. I think very often we try and be perfect, which is a great ambition, but it's really around being honest and authentic. And when things actually go wrong, to run towards them as trust building experiences. Yeah. So I think that's quite important. And then thirdly, just spending a lot of time with your clients. If you really want to differentiate yourself, you need to understand your clients better than anyone else. And the only way to really do that is to walk a mile in their shoes, and really understand them better than anyone else.
And how have you managed to do that during this challenging lockdown period, you know, in terms of staying, and it's something at the Chamber we've endeavored to do as well, using technologies as we are now, but what have you done at Absa? What have you done, Gedeon, in terms of staying close, staying connected?
Yeah, this has been a phenomenally challenging period for us, but also quite rewarding in us being very deliberate about staying exceptionally close to our clients. So we made a point of it, initially literally daily touching base with our clients to understand their needs, understand how their worlds are changing, what would their requirements be, how can we assist them. It not only gave us the right information to make solid choices, but it also built on our relationship. And we really saw that if you are there for your clients during difficult periods, that's really when you build solid relationships, so that when the tide turns, you are the first person that they look towards. So for us, it was really just hammering down on time with our clients, engaging with them as frequently and as often as possible.
So it kind of goes back to your point around the art and the science. So the science being program, make it a program, make it a daily ritual, make it a schedule, get it in the diary, make it done. The art is then, I suppose, in the engagement when you come together, and in terms of, as you say, walking a mile in their shoes, be that virtually or literally. And on that, and you've covered some of this, but do you have an overall approach that you take, almost like a philosophy, to how you build strong relationships with clients?
Yeah. And again, I guess on your point around the art, if you don't have frontline colleagues and bankers that genuinely care for their clients and generally want your client's business to grow or want your customer to be happy, it's very difficult to force this type of behavior. So it is really around getting the right people. But to answer your question maybe more specifically, I think the approach to building relationships, again, there's no shortcuts. You really need to want to be in a relationship with this client. I think I've made the point around spending a lot of time with them, but also gathering as much information as possible. We live in a very data-rich world where there's a lot of sources of information we can use to understand our clients as an individual client, as a segment within a micro or a macro economy. So it's really about spending a lot of time gathering as many data points as possible and then starting to connect the dots, because that will then inform you with information and advice that you can take to your clients to really add value to their businesses. And then I think make it personal, especially in our context. It's a business to business relationship, but we should never forget that it's a human to human interaction. So make it personal, connect with the person on the other end, understand what makes them tick, understand what's going on in their lives. If their child has a recital, just send that small SMS. If it's the wife's wedding, send a bunch of flowers, you know. Connect with people personally, because that's the only way you build those deep, entrenched relationships that lead to proper, good business relationships.
That's really good to hear. If it's the wife's wedding, I always encourage the groom to attend as well and turn up, because it could be awkward if they don't. But no, I absolutely hear you, and it's fascinating that we have so much data out there on people now. And then again, we're going to go off on a tangent, so I'll pause it and open up. There's a few questions been inspired already, but actually, how much is that crossing the personal line? You know, I have clients, colleagues on Facebook and Instagram, and we see things about their life. Do we then bring that into the workplace? It's perhaps a topic for another webinar that we could discuss. Gedeon, thanks so much. There's a few questions that triggered. So what I will do, the audience, I welcome you to ask questions throughout. I have Emma, my colleague in Mission Control, who'll be running the videos and running some online polls. And Cecilia, our Vice President, will be feeding back the questions coming in from the audience. And I can see we have a few already, Cecilia, coming in for Gedeon.
Yes, I've got one here, and I really enjoyed what you said there, and it made me think also. I think you tend to sometimes think banking it's purely about my finances, but I think when it comes to CIB or even business banking, you very quickly discover that people will come to you, and yes, they bring a business problem, but it's never really isolated, because their businesses touch their whole lives, it touches their family. And then you are the other person as a banker, someone who's possibly trained in finance, but you have to become a part of their whole life story. And I'm not sure that everyone who enters a career in banking always understands that. And you know, I'm sure you have some amazing stories to tell about that. And we seem to have a lot of questions that all touch on the human aspect here. There's one from Ian Bessarabia who says, Gedeon, if I may ask a tough question. Economically, banks have never been through such a tough time. How do you keep your client-facing teams motivated and positive to effectively engage with your clients, bearing in mind things are changing almost daily? What is the secret to motivating your teams?
Yeah, I think that's a really relevant and good question. And I think what immediately comes to mind for me is the fact that motivation isn't something that you can switch on and off. It's a culture that you need to instill. And I think we are not lucky, but we've been quite deliberate in instilling a culture where our frontline is really does care for their clients and really wants to do the best thing for their clients. So when tough times come, we suffer with our clients, but in a strange way, it's quite motivating to be there for your clients during tough times, because we know that it's and we trust and we hope that it's not forever, you know, that the tide will turn, and we're quite optimistic that it will. So for us, we've actually seen productivity increase as our bankers and our frontline staff, because they care for their clients, they've been there for them and they've supported them through this journey. And then I think in addition to that, as a leadership team, we've really spent a lot of time on wellness, just putting ourselves in our clients' and our colleagues' shoes and understanding that they're going through an incredibly tough time, rolling out mindful sessions, things that would a year ago have sounded esoteric, doing meditation sessions with our colleagues, you know, so just being there for them at a personal level. But like I said, it's all about instilling a solid culture so that when times get tough, people actually want to be there for their clients.
Great answer. Thanks, Gedeon.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's so interesting that Cecilia puts on banking being a numbers business, but it's a people business. You know, when you're dealing with people's businesses, it's often their lives, their livelihoods. And here at the Chamber, there's a lot of SMEs, family-owned businesses, and it's been such a tough time. And that culture and performance is something you can't turn to when there's a crisis. You need to have prepared for it beforehand. And it's great that you bring that point out. And again, it's a subject close to our hearts around why having a high performance, engaged workforce that is healthy, but also healthy from a mindset perspective, means you become more resilient. And they are some of the founding values of the Inbarosh. So we've brought that together quite nicely, Gedeon. Really appreciate your time. I think we've got a poll now we're going to run, and I encourage the audience to participate. Even if you could cue the poll. And this might be great feedback for you, Absa, and to our members here. What is your #1 preferred method of engagement with your bank? Email, face-to-face, phone call, SMS, banking app, or WhatsApp? I certainly have a preference of my own, but it'll be interesting to see what those results are.
Yeah.
So Gedeon, that's I think you've given us a lot. We'll see those polls come up, then we'll move on to the next section, and then there might be some more questions that come up throughout the rest of the webinar. But any kind of closing comments from yourself about what makes it? Oh, here we go. #1 preferred method of engagement. So just over a quarter by email. Interestingly, less than 10% face-to-face. Phone call 17%. Banking app is up there. 40%, 11% via WhatsApp. That just maybe your observations on that, Gedeon, and your closing comments on really what drives that great client experience. You've covered a lot already, but in conclusion.
Yeah, thanks, John. No, so I think the results are not too surprising. Quite a mixed bag, and then one channel getting a bit more preference than the others. And I think that is what we see quite often from an experience perspective is, yes, you can segment your clients and bucket them and put them into different buckets. And that goes a long way for efficiency. But once you've segmented them and you've kind of placed them into buckets in terms of complexity or the nature of their businesses, then you really need to understand them as individuals. Because some people within a segment would want to be phoned, while another one wants to use your app. So it's really around having that delicate balance, let the data do the talking, but once you have the data, to then really deliver that personalized experience. And for me, that is what it comes down to. Get your basics right. Have that operational excellence. Have channels that are seamless, where you can do self-service and all of that, because that will then free up your frontline to spend all of their energy connecting with people on a humane level, thinking deeply about their businesses and really adding value that creates a great client experience and then benefit for both parties. Yeah,
excellent. That's a great start to our 80-minute journey. I didn't think we'd be touching on meditation, which I'm glad we have. We touched on culture and performance, and actually it's a human-to-human interaction, and it's finding the best way to do that. And as the last poll shows, customers, people don't all fit into one bucket. So we do need to be able to segment and communicate in different ways. Gedeon, thank you so much. We're now going to jump in our balloon and move on to our next flight to the Western Cape via La France. We're going to introduce Antoine from Le Coquin. I love that expression, Le Coquin. Some of you know I'm a francophile. Antoine, you might tell us a little bit about what it actually means, but it also means something cheeky, which I think is quite suitable. But we've discussed there's been a revival around great new food products. And what you guys do at Le Coquin is manufacture dairy-free products. And with your wife, you've actually going to show us a cooking demonstration, which I think maybe, Antoine, we can kick off with the video, if Emma could cue that up for us, and then you and I can have a bit of a conversation about the current landscape.
Hello, I'm Antoine, and this is my wife Natasha, partner at Le Coquin. Most people think that going dairy-free is very complicated. No more cheese, no more creamy sauces. Today we're going to show you how easy it is to substitute dairy for Le Coquin dairy-free cheeses.
So what we're going to do is make a basic cheese sauce made from a bechamel sauce base, which is one of the 5 French mother sauces. For most of you at home, you would know it as a white sauce. So let's get started.
Thank you for that video, Emma and Antoine at Le Coquin. So Antoine, tell us a very little bit about your business and what you've been doing.
Oh, it's very simple. We've been focusing on dairy alternative exclusively and making life easier for everyone.
And what's driven that kind of motivation for this dairy-free food-based products?
Well, we found that dairy is one of the products that causes the most allergies and restrict people to actually enjoy food. And I thought maybe we can do something about that and find a fun way to bring more people together. And when you provide those kind of alternatives, mealtime becomes fun.
Yeah. And in lockdown, I suppose many of us have had more time to spend in the kitchen, less time commuting. Have you noticed any lockdown food trends in South Africa? And really here we're looking at the international context as well, given your global background.
Yes, there's very interesting trends that emerged from the lockdown. The main one was a serious switch towards healthier eating habits. That was the main one. But surprisingly, people were also looking for making the classics at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the two very distinct way of eating that really changed.
What classics have you been hearing about? What types of classic recipes?
Like the food that was shared with family members for decades. Like the really indulging classics. That's the yummy ones, you know, like the thing that we serve usually on Sundays for special occasions, those kind of good things. Yeah.
And do you see these trends lasting after lockdown? Do you see people reverting to pre-lockdown habits?
I would say those trends should last, just because they're too good to forget and to actually not even enjoy. My point on that would be that I think people will start to go back to restaurants, because cooking is fun, but there's preparation, there's the cleaning, and it can be of something sometimes. But when you have the restaurants that are open, you can go to the restaurants and also enjoy those kind of dishes. So I think we'll have a bit more balance and better use of time. I think that would be clearly something that would be more moving forward.
And what tips would you have for somebody trying to incorporate more of a plant-based food diet? You know, that would be an easy way to start, to get somebody started.
The easy way to start is to not make major change overnight. That is the main one. To not get overwhelmed by any change of habits. That would be the best one. Second one would be to just have a quick chat with a doctor to make sure that you actually can make a change like that, just to make sure that you need all your nutrients. That would be that. And lastly, I would say to just start by swapping one of your meal with a plant-based alternative, like either breakfast, lunch, dinner, or even snacks. And that would be just start with one. Then for 1 week, if you can stick to that, then the following week you can add another one, and so on.
Yeah.
Divide and conquer, as they say.
Yeah. And it was Heritage Day last week. What did you put on the braai?
I personally put toasties, simple toasties, good bread and melted cheese. That was my to-go good thing with a good glass of South African wine.
Okay, no, thanks very much, Antoine. I think what we're going to do now, we've got another poll for the audience around our eating trends during lockdown. So which of the following trends would you say reflect your habits in lockdown? Please tick all that apply to you. I've been cooking more than usual. I've been eating less convenience food takeaway options. I've been exploring different types of foods, ingredients, international cuisines. I've been eating less meats and exploring more plant-based. My food and cooking choices have remained largely the same. So welcome the audience's views on that.
And you, Leon, what did you have for Heritage Day, by the way?
So I actually spent Heritage Day with a bunch of French people, and we had a Rossouw sur le braai.
Nice.
So it was good. Yeah. Okay. So there we can see the results. 52% cooking more than usual. 44% have been eating less convenience food. Good to hear. 33% have been exploring international cuisines, and 23% more plant-based options. It's quite interesting. And then 21% might have remained largely the same. So some significant shifts there. Okay. Well, Antoine, thank you very much for that. Really appreciate your contribution, the video. Best of luck. And how's business been for you over the lockdown period?
Well, I won't hide the fact that it's been challenging. Well, the business was pretty focusing on the wholesale, supplying restaurants and all catering trade. So without that part of the business, we were only left with retail. But the good thing here that we actually been very pleasantly surprised by the fact that people were starting to order their food online. So online sales being the big winner out of the lockdown. So it's a whole new market starting to actually develop here, and it presents fantastic opportunities on multiple levels. Yeah.
Antoine, that's great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Before we move on to our next section with Absa, I believe, do we have a comment from Tony, one of our audience members, Cecilia?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hi, is that Tony?
Leon, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well. Hi, Tony. Do you want to introduce yourself? And then...
Can everyone see me?
We can hear you, Tony, but we can't quite see you.
Okay. Is that fine?
Yeah, I think let's run with that. Yeah.
Well, my name's Tony. I am the managing director of Nature's Delicacies, which is a distribution company for healthier alternatives, and mainly focusing within the snacking category. So we are the distributors for Naked and Trek of our business is in imports from the UK, and the balance now from South Africa. And Leon, I think our findings just, I agree with Antoine. We've been hit with something this year that we've never faced before. We've almost had to, you've had to overnight try and orientate yourself with what you anticipate. Even before we've had a couple of months experience with lockdown, and we've seen the effects. But I think, let me get to the facts. What we've observed, we've been very fortunate with our suppliers in the UK, something that you might find very interesting. We've got Nielsen data that has confirmed some information. And interestingly enough, one would think that going into this, that people would be focused on their health, but actually I think the survival mentality has actually shown otherwise. For example, the health category in the United Kingdom, first time ever, is down and has been down. Okay, this is confirmed with Nielsen data. So the health category has been down, and I believe it's feet related. So, when you are supplying, so for example, in our case, we don't supply the catering segment like Antoine, focuses on. Our business is retail. We focus on retail, and of course, it's logical. The feet have been significantly down in your FMCG retailers, and it is in a recovery state now, which is great. But what I found very, very interesting was that the category that actually increased in sales over this period, because everyone wants to hear, okay, we know a lot of people have been hit, but who's actually making money and who are benefiting of what has happened? And the confectionery category is up in sales. So people are buying chocolates and sweets at a level that they haven't before. And this is now United Kingdom Nielsen data. The confectionery category is up in sales. So one would think that we would be focusing on health. And in South Africa, I obviously have our own findings from what we've seen. And what I can say, although I don't have Nielsen data from South Africa, recently I got information from a very respectable doctor in Constantia, and what the feedback that I got was, during this lockdown period, he's in his early 70s, very successful doctor. He says never in his life has he seen so many patients with pain in their body coming to see him, and what he believes it's from is people are indulging at home. They're not exercising as usual as they do. They're baking biscuits, they're baking treats, they're baking things at home, but it's been a little out of control. And this was just a comment. And what I thought to myself when I heard this was, well, that's sort of in line with the statistics that we've been given from the United Kingdom. So that was very interesting. What I can, yes.
Yeah, no, Tony, it's interesting. It's going to raise quite a few questions. I can see some coming up, and what I'm going to do is perhaps push those to the end.
Yes.
And what you've done nicely is open up a new subject for us around the healthcare and emotional eating piece, but equally taking us to the UK and the Nielsen data from the UK. Tony, thank you. I think we will comment on that at the end. I've got to get back in the. Thank you so much from Naked Foods there, healthy eating. We'll come back to that, but back in the hot air balloon and then over to London, where confectionery sales have gone up. And I'd like to introduce the Chief Executive of Absa International, Cheryl Boos, somebody well known to us at the Chamber, our former board member, landlord, great supporter, now a member of the South African Chamber Advisory Council. But really to hand over to you, Cheryl, and to thank you again for hosting this event.
Thank you, Leon, and good morning to everyone. I'm delighted to be participating today from London. And well done to the British Chamber on such an innovative event and really bringing the ability to connect all of us together. So fantastic. As you know, as Absa, we're proud members of the British Chamber and seek to work very closely with the Chamber and other fellow members to offer support on trade and investment initiatives between South Africa, the rest of the continent, if applicable, and of course the UK. So many of you may well remember that I said farewell, not goodbye, to the Chamber and to South Africa at the end of the year and relocated our family here to the UK. And maybe many of you are asking the question, goodness, did they move for their food? Did they move for the UK food? And I'm sure the response is hell no. Who would do that? Who would move continents for British food? And I think that 20, 30 years ago is probably a fair statement. But today, I think on the contrary, it's been a delightful surprise. Britain has actually revived its food industry and has emerged firmly onto the world stage. In fact, 4 restaurants have made it into the world's top 50 best restaurant awards for the year. And London's fast become known to have a foodie experience, which is really one of the best in the world. It's been touted as being diverse, exciting, real, global, with a strong fusion of international tastes and paired up with excellent local produce, which really differentiates itself. So for me, it's this global connectivity which has revived British foods, really pushing it and pushing its markets and chefs onto the world stage. So at Absa, after the announcement of the separation from Barclays, we realized that to achieve our ambitions of becoming a leading Pan-African bank, we needed to shift and rethink our recipe a little bit and really connect globally and leverage ourselves through our differentiated local capability and presence that we have on the continent, being here for over 100 years. And so we set to build our Absa international strategy and set ourselves up in the UK. Essentially, we're an international office which seeks to bring knowledge of Africa into the UK, and that's really through our on-the-ground presence in Africa and through our expertise. But importantly, we look to assist bringing UK trade and businesses into Africa. We serve in the UK as a relationship touch point for anything related to our bank in the 12 markets in which we serve in across Africa. And so really our international strategy serves to build and maintain client relationships with financial institutions, corporates, development organizations, the likes of DFID, and global development organizations, the likes of the Global Fund, the likes of Save the Children. We look to intermediate African trade related flow and investment, and we also provide a hub for global expertise centered around Africa. So really exciting that we've been up and running for just over 2 years now. We've just finished our build out in the US, so we go live in the US, and now we wish to connect the globe on a wider frame, looking at enhancing our connectivity with Middle East Asia as well as China. So really, given we have an African heartbeat, we differentiate ourselves through our African presence as a systemic bank in Africa, and that allows us to be relevant to this client base that wants to access the corridor. And we believe that we're trusted advisors on the continent, given the fact that we have operated on the continent, either through Barclays or now through Absa for over 100 years. So, I mean, for me, in summary, we believe that the corridor between South Africa and the UK offers significant opportunity for close alignment of business. As Africa International, we link our clients to Africa and connect our businesses to global clients and investors. We're African, we're connected, we enable access into our beautiful continent of Africa. So that's just our recipe for success that we are hopefully starting to achieve. Thanks, Leon, and thank you to the Chamber.
Thanks, Cheryl. And I think that raises so many interesting points that I'd like to come back to, which hopefully we can do. And I'm glad you're enjoying the food in my homeland. It was great to see you in London in March. But Temi's just joined us, the Deputy Chief Exec and Absa Regional Operations and Chief Operating Officer. I know Temi's going to tell us a bit about the heritage and the Absa story, and he's pressed for time. So perhaps, Temi, if I can invite you to switch on your camera and join us and tell us the Absa story, which is a rich story. Cheryl tells us of 100 years, and then we can take it from there. Welcome. Good morning.
Morning, Leon, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests. Certainly, thank you to the Chamber for the invitation. The theme for this webinar is around the world in 80 minutes, and while I don't want to put the boot in, literally and figuratively, the last truly global event that brought our two nations together was actually the Rugby World Cup in Japan last year. Some of you may remember
Temi.
that.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, yeah.
No problem. And I don't really want to dwell on the score, but I remember it was 32-12, if anyone's forgotten. And I do want to take a moment really to remember what the world looked like actually on the 2nd of November, 2019. That evening, I think we had about 70,000 people in the stadium in Yokohama, and something like 45, 50 million people globally watching the match. And, irrespective of the result, which I won't remind you of anymore, the world really came together, I think, on an incredible scale. And we now fast forward 10 months later, and, it's completely changed, right? I mean, major sports events, without crowds, I don't know if you've been following the tennis or the Formula One or any of these big match football, there's just nobody there. The atmosphere's gone. We now all talk to one another with these mediums, which has been very interesting, challenging at the same time. But, I think the biggest thing is we're just missing out on a lot of the cultural exchanges that flow, when people are together and we're singing national anthems and we line up against one another. And I guess ultimately, we are missing out on the humanity of it all. I know that's quite challenging. Here in South Africa, we're celebrating Heritage Month in September. And, it gives me a little bit of pause for thought about sort of where's a nation, where we've come from, where we are. In 95, we had the Rugby World Cup victory then. We're the darling of the world, an upstart nation that was an inspiration to the rest of the world. And I think, we've consistently punched above our weight on sports fields and in the boardroom to some extent, and, were relatively successful also in attracting investors from around the world, including Barclays. And as some of you may know, Absa was formed, through the merger of 4 South African banks, I think, in 91 and 92, if my memory serves me right. We had at the time 7 million customers, growing at a rate of in the sort of mid-teens, 27% market share in kind of consumer financing and mortgages and so on. And I think then it was a really attractive proposition for Barclays, who wished to re-enter the South African market. Some of you may not know this, but what is now First National Bank was the old Barclays Bank, way before nationalization. And after months of negotiations, that deal was consummated in July 2005, when Barclays bought a 56% stake in Absa, which was worth in 2005 money 30 billion rand. I think it was the largest foreign investment in South Africa's history, and also the largest purchase of a local bank by a foreign bank at the time. And we'd like to think that was a real success story. Then I guess somehow, the dream soured a little bit. I think it's useful always to contrast that in the same year that we were lifting this Rugby World Cup, South Africa was named as the most unequal country in the world. And for those of us that live here, that's a very visible thing that you can see and feel. I think you would have seen one of the most iconic photographs on the cover of Time magazine, the 2 suburbs, side by side with the road in between. And one was kind of a shanty town, and on the other side, houses with swimming pools and so on. So, that's our reality today. And I think before COVID and all of the lockdowns, unemployment in SA was also at record levels. And, youth unemployment is twice what it was, for instance, with Tunisia, when their Arab Spring kicked off a few years ago. So, COVID-19 really exacerbated what was already quite a challenging situation. And I think it's called for some business leadership from the business community, particularly in emerging markets globally, where, healthcare systems and economic value chains have proven to be quite vulnerable to external shocks. And we've seen a lot of that. And, we were called upon as a business community and corporate citizens really to lead the way through our social investment initiatives, and I think we responded quite well. We were able to demonstrate that even in a crisis, there is opportunity to do good. And for this reason, as a leadership team in Absa, we take enormous pride at being recognized a month or so ago at the recent Euromoney Awards for being, one of the global leaders in our response to COVID-19. They picked an entity from each continent and awarded them, and we got the prize or the award for Africa. So we're very pleased about that. But whilst it's great to be recognized for these types of innovations and solutions, and we were recognized for many others during the year, and I think it does speak to the culture of the business that we have here at Absa. In 2020, we've been involved in a variety of initiatives to play our part in rebuilding the economy and protecting the most vulnerable. These include an extensive client relief program, humanitarian interventions that also helped a lot of people in need. So, as of the middle of the year, when we released our H1 results, we provided nearly 9 billion of relief on financings to over 538,000 customers, including 20,000 here in South Africa, businesses in South Africa. The Corporate Investment Bank, assisted clients on a one-on-one basis, and we granted relief on nearly 40 billion of loans, which represents, nearly 12% of our total asset book. And outside South Africa, we afforded payment relief on over 25 billion of financing. And in an initiative led by actually members of staff, our CIB colleagues, we raised 8 million rand to source and distribute, nearly 400,000 medical grade face masks to 68 hospitals and clinics. And, the way we got it done was actually we each contributed or sacrificed our accumulated leave balances and, converted that into cash, which we then donated for the purposes of this initiative. So, I think that was really a great example of how we think about, not just as an organization, but as a team of colleagues, how we can also help, in addressing the challenge of the crisis. And then, through this year, we will distribute over 2 million food parcels as well to needy citizens across the country. So I think, we played our part with many other initiatives as well, in trying to navigate this crisis. But, there's an untold story, I would like to actually expand on. One of my colleagues, George Asante, who leads our global markets business outside South Africa, he's recently looked at the response of African economies and policymakers to the COVID-19 crisis, and contrasting that actually with what we saw in 2008. And I think it's quite a fascinating story. If you just look at the 2008 peak, the volatility index that tracks 9 biggest African markets, I think that spiked to something like 18%. In contrast, that very same index in 2020 only spiked to 10%. And I think what this does is it actually reflects the progress, the impressive progress that has been made in maturing the regulatory framework and business framework on the continent. Back then, many emerging market central bankers were in 2008 kind of deer in the headlamps, right? They didn't really have well-coordinated mechanisms and abilities and tools and funding lines to actually respond to the crisis that was then unfolding. But if we contrast that with 2020, we can definitely see that many policymakers have been able to respond in quite a measured and mature way. And you overlay that with the way development financial institutions and other funders have continued to assess opportunities on the continent. And I think you get a lot of confidence from that. And that's one of the things we have been really trying as an organization to be part of. We've got this Africa Financial Markets Index that you may have seen, which I think we're now in our 4th edition, which really is all about trying to really mature and develop the capital markets and policy tools and recommending changes to rules and regulations that countries should adopt as they seek to become more important on the global stage. And I think, all of this, I think, is quite important for us as a banking group, that's focusing on becoming the Pan-African banking group. And we think that, this continent continues to offer some of the best risk-adjusted returns in the world, despite all of the challenges that we see. And I think that's a story we really need to tell. In fact, I'm reminded of some of the comments that the president of Ghana has been making of late. And he made it in London when I saw him at that UK Africa Investment Conference. He made it in Davos again. And I think he made it recently, which is actually that he's of the view that Africa gets penalized in terms of risk premia relative to other regions in the world, which isn't actually truly borne out by the actual experience that these investments have. So I think there's a challenge there that we need to take up as Africans and really push that agenda. We've been working very closely with DFIs, like I said. We've made a number of important transactions, both with the African Development Bank, with the CDC, who we've really become very close to, I think, over the last 12, 24 months. They've upweighted their financing commitments to us. And really, we're using that to ensure that we can continue to drive trade finance on this continent and help support African supply chains during this time of crisis, which I think is quite important. At the same time, we've been able to fund 2 of the largest energy transactions on the continent, or co-fund, I should say, one being obviously the LNG project in Mozambique and a brownfield operation in Nigeria, both of which we think are quite transformative and will really bring significant multiplier effect. So, as a bank, we're quite bullish on Africa, and we hope that you will continue to partner with us on this journey. Post the separation from Barclays, we're now a fully independent institution. And as Cheryl has said, we see that as being a real springboard for us. So we like to think the new Absa was born in July 2018. And, maybe to end, I started the note on a lighter speech and spoke about the role that sport is playing in bringing the world together. And just like this money, there are the finer things and fun things in our lives. And 2020 has reminded us of those, and we shouldn't take them for granted. I certainly don't. But we also have some challenges and we need to address them. But we're hoping that working in partnership with the Chamber and the esteemed organizations that are members of the Chamber, that we can all rise together and meet this challenge. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much, and hand over to you, Leon.
Temi, thank you so much. Thank you so much for reminding me of the Rugby World Cup final. I actually thought you were going to talk about the African Investment Summit in January, when, as you said, there was so much energy around investment coming to Africa. I know we met there, but it is important that we remind ourselves that, like Cheryl's role in London, your role, Pan-Africa and international as well, there really are good news stories to be told here. And as the Chamber, we are here to celebrate that good news, not putting our head in the sand and avoiding the realities like the Time magazine cover tells us, but actually what we are doing to proactively navigate and take on those real challenges that one could argue are as challenging and pandemics in themselves just as much as COVID is. And it's great around the regulatory landscape framework being improved. And the Africa Free Trade Agreement, I think, is going to be critical as well in improving our financial outcomes. Temi, thank you so much. And Cheryl, thank you so much. We'll hopefully have time for some questions at the end. I know, Temi, you may need to move on, but we need to jump back in our balloon now and move on to our next destination.
Travel safe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I now believe we're going to be joined by our members and friends from the Saxon, who have very kindly recorded a video clip for us that Ema is now going to load up for us. And Obviously, you can imagine this leisure industry is one that's been hit rather hard throughout this lockdown period. So it'd be great to hear what's happening at the Saxon and see their video.
Hello everyone, I'm Ncumisa from the Saxon Hotel. I'm standing inside our newly refurbished restaurant, Coquin. So we're completing a refurbishment in here, so many of you will see that it looks very different. I'll be presenting to you the offering at Coquin alongside my colleagues Justin and Ncumisa. Justin is the food and beverage manager at the Saxon, overseeing the general offering in terms of food and beverage, and Ncumisa is head of our wine program here as the head sommelier. So Coquin offers a modern African table. We offer a lot of heritage ingredients and sourced directly from our farms. We're very excited to welcome you back when we do open again, and I'm looking forward to talking to Lloyd and Justin.
Okay, so for today's light lunch, I've selected some South African as well as some international French producers. I'll just introduce you to the lineup here. To start with, I've got the Pernod Ricard 2011, a legendary powerhouse producer from Stellenbosch region, and also alongside is another South African producer being Artenberg. Then I've got this special site known as the Guava Hill. So this is a single vineyard wine. I actually have the 2007 vintage, which is showing a lot of earthy minerality in there, which I think is absolutely gorgeous. Next to it is the white liner, and we have the Jean-Claude Bachelot. This is the 2014 vintage, and it's a Chassagne Rachet, which is absolutely gorgeous. And then the next one will be the Pascal Jolibert from Eloi, base producer. This is the 2018 vintage, so it's going to be a Sauvignon Blanc wine. And then lastly, of course, to go with the desserts, I have chosen something that is slightly sweeter on the palate. I have the Messias Temi, and this is a 40-year-old release. So I hope you enjoy it.
Chef have prepared canapé for us. It's a sorted canapé. Some are served cold, others are served warm. So starting from here, we got smoked pork and corn pie. And over here, we got salmon eclair with fennel ravioli. This is salted carrot and a little bit of duck on top. And we got miso glazed pork belly. And this is butternut, baked butternut, and it has also duck lamb neck on top. Araska, baked araska with a brioche, toasted brioche. And this is duck confit with onion baked.
Lloyd, can you tell us how you go about the Saxon wine program? How do you select the wines? And also, how do you decide which wines to pair with food?
Okay, well, as you know, the wine list is never complete.
Oh.
It's constantly an evolving product.
Does that mean you need to taste a lot of wines?
Oh, it's part of the job.
Right.
You know, and everything that we put on the wine list, we try as much as possible to get an opinion on it. Mm-hmm. And the decision does not lie squarely on my shoulders. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, we've got a thriving wine program. Yeah.
And how would you define fine dining? What makes fine dining stand out from any?
Personally, fine dining, it's an experience. It's not the mouth. But that experience comes with every single details in that restaurant or in that environment. So it goes from how you get in the place, how you get welcomed in the place, how you get seated. The interaction you have with the staff is personal, it's interactive. The food speaks for itself, the wine speaks for them. The whole thing becomes a fine dining experience.
So fine dining does not necessarily mean that you need a tablecloth and silverware. It really is about
no, it's about the experience.
And how do you select the pairings?
Well, we work hand in hand with the chef, first of all. We've always had a strong relationship with the chefs, and such that we sit down and then the chef shares their philosophy and what's really got their creative juices flowing. And And so what we always try to do is to share ideas. And okay, maybe you've got this dish in mind. Maybe take some time to start thinking about what kind of wines you would complement that sort of dish. And then when the dish is in creation or is concluded, then we can try it, bring a couple of options to the table. You know, we can try whites, we can try reds as well. And sometimes the main philosophy behind it isn't always to get the best wines that are sort of all hand in hand. Sometimes you like a lot of contrast in the pairing because you don't want the wine to be consumed in the flavor profile. So you always want the wine to sing its own language, to sing its own voice.
To sing,
yes.
And so, which wine regions are our best singers?
Again, I don't want to confine the best singers to one region, you know, because I think it's a full orchestra. You know, you have a lot of players in the game, and in South Africa specifically, you have to take the entire wine region and these beautiful countries. Washington is my favorite, obviously, because of the Myresidence and some of the signature wines that come from that area. But another area that has also been very close to my heart is the Madinda area of production, because of the beautiful Chardonnays and the Pinot Noirs that emanate from that region. So those are some of my favorites. But lately, I've been very fascinated by the wines that are coming from the Westcliff area of production, traditionally confined to bulk wine production throughout history. And I think they only started turning the corner around the turn of the millennium. But their wines are increasingly becoming some of the most sought after and cupped products in South Africa.
So the pastry chef had decided to spoil us with a little delight, yeah? We've got raspberry and passion fruit tartlets. And over here we've got manjari chocolate mousse verine with a little bit dulce ganache and orange zest.
Lloyd, I believe you've selected a 40-year-old dessert wine.
Absolutely.
Are you 40?
Not yet. I wish I was. But not yet. They say life begins at 40, so probably began a long time ago with this particular wine. Yes, we've got the passion fruit and raspberry sorbet here, but we also have the chocolate mousse, which is the dessert offering that the chef has selected for us during this lunchtime. And I wanted for something that is not too sticky, not too syrupy to accompany these versatile flavors. And there was nothing else I could go to other than the 40-year-old Messias, Tony.
Is this from Portugal?
Yes, this is Portuguese. This is one of the finest producers in the world right now, and making a varied range of Tony selection. So hence the color, obviously. So it's got this hazelnutty characteristic to it, and a very, very lovely chocolate finish to it, which I think will be a lovely accompaniment to both desserts.
And then lastly, tell me a little bit about this glass. I see it's got a little bubble, which I believe is called a knuckle.
Well, the glass design, it's good looking, it's beautiful, it's a different thing, but it's also, it's helping the wine in the pot to open up. And because same as the decanter, the way you pour, the way the wine is going all down, it's how it's opening up. It's like, you know, stretching, so it's quick.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to welcoming you back. Now we're going to enjoy our dessert. Cheers.
Thank you, Retabile, and everybody at the Saxon there. It's we're looking forward to you opening, and we're looking forward to attending an event there, and that tasting menu looked delicious. We look forward to experiencing that again. And this is what we tried to do today in 80 minutes, as we're rapidly running out of time, but racing in our balloon, is having a bit of a journey through looking at cocktails, looking at different types of food, looking at wine tasting, and then tenuously linking that to elements of banking. Moving on to a topic close to my heart now is the gin and tonic. So we started with an Inverroche gin and tonic, but a critical question, perhaps too early in the day or not, but how do you like your G&T to be served? And is it ever too early to have a gin and tonic? And what we're going to do, obviously, as that poll's coming in, we're going to visit one of our other members that have just opened, the Four Seasons at the Westcliff, and they've provided a video for us. And then we have a short clip after that about how best to make the perfect gin and tonic. Okay. Thanks. Maybe do the results after the next video, Ema. There's spectacular views from the Four Seasons that we can see open, and obviously the beauty of the Saxon, which we've just seen, is going to be opening up very, very soon. And then I believe we have some advice on how to produce, here we go, the perfect G&T. Depends on the gin, of course, which we could be controversial and ask Tanqueray versus Inverroche, with lemon, with cucumber, with rosemary, and only 6% are over G&T, and they're onto the rum trend. Perhaps that will be the next piece. And do we have a video, Ema, in terms of how to perhaps prepare and make the best possible gin and tonic?
How to make the perfect gin and tonic. Step 1. Fill a large glass with ice. Don't be shy. Then add some citrus zing with a nice slice of lemon and a cheeky squeeze of lime. Now grab a pinch of basil. This will really bring out the flavors in the botanicals. Pour a measure of Diageo's finest Tanqueray gin. Now add the chilled tonic water. Et voila, the perfect G&T. Enjoy.
I hope you enjoyed the home editing and the voiceover there. That is my 13-year-old son, Louis, who's available for voiceover work. And that gin was enjoyed by myself and a colleague on a Friday afternoon. But then bringing this back to the Absa space, we've looked at the Flames restaurant that is now open again. We've looked at that perfect G&T. We've looked at that great view from the Westcliff. We've looked at the fine dining experience with our friends at the Saxon. But how do you fire up your banking with Absa? I'd like to introduce James Craig Coquin, who's Business Development Relationship Banking Manager with Absa Wealth, and hear about how we can fire up our banking with you, James. With or without a gin and tonic, it's your call. So just unmute yourself and please handing over to you.
Thanks, Leon. Indeed, and with the G&T, please, that looks spectacular.
Yeah.
So yeah, thinking about today, thinking about as we ease into this lockdown level 1, we're increasingly hearing we're open for business again. And that's super encouraging for the individual, the business owner, and the economy. And I just want to reassure everybody that as Absa Private and Wealth Banking, we've been open throughout COVID. Through these challenging times, trying to provide solutions. Everyone's aware of the COVID relief that we've been providing our clients. It's given us an opportunity to remain relevant and close to our clients. And we are committed to delighting our customers at every step. I suppose the only difference is that as we ease into level 1, we hope to build our relationships with you in person and not be interfered with by our toddlers interrupting our Zoom and MS Teams meetings. So as at Absa, we believe in possibility, in the actions of people who always find a way to get things done. We believe in creating opportunities for our customers to make their possibilities real and supporting them every step of the way. Okay, so how do we do this? As one of the largest retail banks on the continent, private banking, in our opinion, is really well placed to partner with you as individuals by offering solutions and services to your evolving needs. And by this, I mean, as you grow, we grow with you and provide those solutions for your growth. Now, be that from a transactional banking or a range of virtual or online solutions, and I took serious note of your online poll earlier on, being the app banking is a preferred channel. We're really proud of our app banking. Further on the private banking side, you know, the home loans, the vehicle financing, and interestingly enough, we've seen an increase in vehicle finance applications and indeed home loans. I think interest rates have not been this kind to the individual for a number of years. So Absa, we're quite busy in that space. Included in that, we've also have some really interesting bespoke lending and investment solutions. I suppose the point I want to make is that we're here for you, we have been here for you, and we want to grow with you as our clients. I was asked, but what's the big difference then between what we're talking about in private banking and where I am in the wealth banking space? Given your audience, Leon, you know, wealth, we look at you in a different lens. You know, we're interested in the individual, we're interested in the family, and we look at you holistically. Now, what does that mean? We mean net asset value. So everything that you touch, not just your payslip. A simple statement of assets and liabilities gives you a net of 10 million Rand. You would qualify for wealth banking. Now, why would we look at you in this lens as opposed to, say, your salary slip, as we do in private banking? Well, we find that many of our customers have already accumulated wealth. Most importantly for this audience, are business owners, have shares in businesses, and therefore the distinction between me, the individual, and me, my business, is opaque at best. We also find that there are a number of customers that receive their profit share, their dividends on an annual or biannual basis. Perhaps many of our clients and customers have property portfolios or share portfolios on and offshore. Their income may therefore be staggered versus a monthly income. As such, the payslip, if it's relevant, becomes irrelevant. Now, this lens gives us the ability to create solutions for our clients that meet their growth, ambitions, and unique requirements. How do we do this? We do this off a deep foundation of trust and building a relationship by offering appropriate solutions. Now, some of the solutions that we offer is that we have an advisory-led investment team. So we're open architecture. Doesn't mean we need to use the Absa investment product. If the best product is with, you know, the likes of a Coronation or Mazars, whoever, we will go there. Combine that with our internal stockbroking portfolio management team, where we're able to open both local and offshore equity exposure. We have a structured solutions team, which has been, as you can appreciate, during these economic times, they've been incredibly busy on providing structured notes in dollar, euros, and pounds offshore. Our fiduciary team is also something else that we work a lot with our business owners, trying to delineate, you know, have you created enough distance between yourself, the individual, and yourself, the business? When was your trust put in place? How is that structure put in place so that the next generation is protected? Furthermore, in our family office, the advisory fiduciary team does a lot of work on next generation training. You know, multi-generation money can only last for as long as it is cared for. We also have our own internal Forex team that'll provide some very generous rates, so you'll never go into a branch and have to pay retail rates. And we also provide, currency hedging, which in these times, again, is important. One of the last distinguishing factors is our credit solutioning team. Because we look at you holistically, because we look at you at a net asset value, we're able to create a lending solution that suits your cash flow needs, that suits your portfolio versus, the traditional way of providing lending. Again, it's been very useful to our clients in their personal capacities and their families. And then the last piece, I suppose, is that, prior to lockdown, our credit card and our rewards program, I thought was fantastic. I thought it was outstanding. But unfortunately, lockdown meant that all the nice bells and whistles of travel were yanked away from us. And we hope that once we're allowed to do a lot more international travel, the rewards program and the benefits of our card will help you lift yourself out of that kind of claustrophobia that we've been in. We're clearly very proud of our banking offerings and the deep relationships we enjoy with our customers, both onshore and offshore. Now, to this end, we do a lot of partnering with our colleagues in the business banking space and in the corporate investment banking teams. The idea here is to entrench the Absa relationship with you. We will look after you in the individual and the family perspective, whilst your business is catered for by our colleagues in business banking and corporate banking. We believe that this enhances our relationship, gives us the opportunity to really get to know you, like Gedeon has mentioned right in the beginning. Now, it goes without saying that we have a significant footprint across, certainly in South Africa, and we would absolutely love to welcome the opportunity to engage with you in person and to deepen that relationship that you already have on the business front. We are available. The private and wealth teams would love to connect with anybody who's not yet an Absa private and wealth client. And if after today, you'd like to hear a little bit more about how we do it, we would welcome the opportunity to engage. And I realize I'm looking at the time there, Leon, and I'll cut it short there and allow you to ask any questions.
That's spot on. Great timing, James. Perfect landing time, and we've still got a little segment. But I would encourage any of the audience and the members, if they have further questions, to reach out to us. We can connect you, and I'll remind people of that in our concluding remarks. And it's very interesting to hear that you do actually look at other products as well that can generate wealth, not just specifically Absa products. And as we move on, thank you, James. I'll come back into my concluding comments. Thank you very much. And we've discussed with Cheryl, with Temi, about the internationalization of Absa. And obviously in our virtual journey along the gin exploration, the fine wine dining, tasting, pairing, the Flames Bry, the Saxon, the Westcliff, we've been really looking at travel. And tomorrow at 3 o'clock, 1500 hours, we're going to hear about what level 1 actually means in terms of what travel is open. And we do know that Africa is going to be open. And what we've heard is Absa being very pro-African, as indeed we are at the British Chamber of Business in Southern Africa. And so for this final segment, I'm going to hand over to Adam Kane-Smith from Myresidence, who's going to tell us briefly a bit about their business. There's probably been an adjustment and a pivot based on more businesses wanting to engage in operations in Africa. Adam, can you come on the line now?
Hello, Leon.
Hi, Adam. Perhaps just very quickly gives an overview of Myresidence and what it is, so we can inform our members.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us on. We're grateful to the Chamber for the opportunity to be able to present our business. Myresidence is a relatively new business. It's been around for 2 years, but it's born out of a sister business by the name of Relocation Africa, a long-term member with the Chamber. And so from that 27-year history of bringing expats to the continent, we realized that there was an opportunity that needed to be explored. And it's born out of the fact that the temporary relocation industry has changed over the years as corporate travelers have realized that with the advent of the internet as a means to do business, the need to travel to relocate for many years dissipated, but the need to travel for shorter periods of time, which were also periods of time that meant it would be uncomfortable to be a hotel, that need arose. And so Myresidence grew out of the need that we saw there, and particularly the need to fulfill that on the African continent. So Myresidence has, in a very short space of time, and using the agencies, the agents that we have on the ground in 25 countries, built up a portfolio of over 260 properties which we have vetted independently and which we know meet the criteria of the corporate traveler. And those criteria are different to the leisure traveler and the kind of traveler who would look to Airbnb for their accommodation. Obviously, there are amenity requirements, there are security requirements, and convenience to their place of work requirements. All of those we source and make sure of on behalf of the corporate traveler.
Adam, I think we've got a video that we're going to play.
Yeah, the video
outlines those. We'll play that video now. Thank you very much.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Myresidence's temporary accommodation offerings throughout Africa offer you a sense of hotel services, yet with the convenience of a home with dining and lounge areas. Africa is a wonderful continent with so much to offer. However, it can be challenging when looking for executive-level serviced apartments. This is where Myresidence has placed itself. We're an African company providing vetted apartments that will suit expatriates' temporary accommodation needs from project teams through to executive levels. We have a network of vetting agents across the continent who are constantly sourcing and vetting apartments. We are therefore confident all our guests will have an experience that meets their needs. Every property listed on our site has been appraised to ensure that our clients will experience an executive-level solution wherever they stay. Our mission is to remove the complexity and anxiety around finding a place to stay for a short-term assignment, anywhere from 2 weeks to 12 months, which provides comfort and a clean, serviced, secure living space, far more than what a simple hotel room has to offer. We want our guests to be able to invite friends or colleagues around for dinner in an apartment, rather than meeting them at a restaurant or hotel. After all, a couple of months is a long time to stay in the same hotel room.
The type of accommodation usually sought and offered by us is sort of a home away from home type of feel, but with the same security and the same sort of standards that you would expect at a top hotel. So the sort of accommodation offered is one where you will have full Wi-Fi, where you will have servicing, where there is a reception, where there are top security standards. But at the same time, you have a good living space, you have a kitchen so that you can do your own thing and just be comfortable during your stay.
Myresidence has over 7,300 apartments in over 263 buildings located in 28 countries across the African continent. We are ready to provide you with all of your executive temporary accommodation needs. For more information, feel free to visit our website at myresidence.africa, WhatsApp 2771 401 2477, or email us via requests@myresidence.africa. Thank you.
Thanks, Seema. Thank you for that video. Yeah, I think perhaps just Adam, quickly as we're coming to the end of our journey, which are the key countries you're seeing business travel moving to beyond South Africa?
Yeah, thanks, Leon. Certainly South Africa is our top destination, but and even through the crisis, we've been very pleased to see activity in other African countries. In particular, we see a lot of business travel to Nigeria. Ghana is a big area of interest for us and is growing. And of course, Kenya. Further north, we get a lot of activity into Morocco as well. We're anticipating a growing demand into some of our nearer neighbors. Mozambique certainly is a destination of the future, as well as Angola. And those have been top destinations for us.
That's a perfect segue into our final poll. Thank you so much, Adam. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for having me on.
Absolute pleasure. So Ema, if you could queue up our final poll then, and I'm going to read it out for the purpose of the recording. Which of the following African countries represents the #1 opportunity for business, considering all the factors we've discussed, such as ease of doing business, regulatory environment, political stability, foreign direct investment? South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Mozambique, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Ghana, or the Côte d'Ivoire? It'd be really interesting to see what the audience thinks about these opportunities. Okay, so interestingly there, we can see South Africa, we are very confident remains the #1 opportunity, followed in a distant second by Kenya, and then Rwanda, Mozambique, and Ethiopia. That's very interesting. Perhaps I could invite, I know Cheryl's had to dash, Seppo is on the line. Your observations around the opportunities for business in Africa that you've seen from an Absa perspective. Sorry to pull you in there. Seppo is one of our board members and director at Absa. Just in terms of, I know Cheryl's had to leave, but saying that looking at those destinations on the continent, which beyond South Africa, which do you see as the big opportunities for Absa? Where are you thriving?
Hi everyone. I wasn't prepared to show my face, but you know, having a look at the polls, I was actually quite surprised that South Africa came in first. I look after South Africa from a multinationals point of view. I actually expected Kenya to top the chat and followed by Ghana, or the other way around. That's where we see opportunities. And when we speak to most of the multinationals, they're looking at countries like Ghana, Kenya, you know, the likes of Uganda, as well as Tanzania.
Yeah. Interestingly, that would have been my experience in terms of what we're seeing in terms of trade deals, but also revenue flows and exploratory visits. But it's good that we're all feeling optimistic still about South Africa.
Yeah, I'm excited about that, seeing that I look after South Africa. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good news. And again, Sebo, to surprise you, but I just wanted to bring you on to thank you, because this was very much your brainchild, and you're the key sponsor for wanting to do a sponsor webinar, but do it differently. So thank you for the creativity and the support of your team in bringing this together.
Thank you, Leon. Thank you to the team. I mean, there's a lot of work that went behind it. I was actually at the Westcliff when they were shooting the video, so it was nice to be out there. And you know, after being on lockdown for months, it was nice just, you know, to see the lovely views and just to be out there. Yeah.
It was nice to be out there, and we had to drink those gin and tonics as part of the research. So, you know, sometimes you just have to get stuck in and work hard. But no, Seppo, thank you so much. Thank you for jumping on and answering that question, sharing my instincts. Again, we've come now to, I think, 91 minutes. So we're 11 minutes late, which it depends which airline we're benchmarking ourselves to. SAA would probably be quite happy with that right now. Sadly, they've been grounded. I hope that's not an indication for the broader airline industry. But I'd just like to thank Seppo and Absa. I'd like to thank Gedeon, Cheryl, Temi, and James for giving us your time. Antoine, merci beaucoup from Le Coquin with your wife, and Retabile and the team of the Saxon, and the Four Seasons and Myresidence, Adam Kane-Smith, for sharing your business with us. What we've really tried to do is have a little bit of fun, but also, now that we're in level 1, and now that travel is going to be open tomorrow, just to give you some insights and reminders to actually there is a world out there beyond the world of lockdown. Absa have a portfolio and banking offering that suits a variety of customers. Any questions that have been raised that you want answered, please feel free to contact us, and we can connect you directly with the Absa team going forward, and indeed with any of the other partners that have shared this adventurous webinar with us. I hope you've not seen it's been quite frantic behind the scenes, queuing things up and moving on and getting everything done in time, but it's been fun and enjoyable, and I hope you have too. Please share some feedback. And I've heard some really positive things, and particularly looking at Absa's ambitions for moving into Africa, but also from their international perspective. They're looking at trade flows going out and businesses coming in. And that's going to be critical to us building the economy within the post-COVID context. On the theme of travel, we have a webinar with Virgin tomorrow. They are flying again, and they're hoping to be able to announce where they're going to be flying to, and hopefully into the UK very soon. We all wait with anticipation tomorrow to what the minister is going to say. But I think we can all sense that life is getting busy again, traffic is picking up, and we can start enjoying some of these great venues that we've seen today. And indeed, if we do need some help with our businesses from cash flow perspectives or from a private wealth perspective, we can certainly reach out and engage with Absa, as you can with the British Chamber. I'd like to thank my team, Cecilia for fielding the questions, Ema and Mission Control, Leslie for pulling it all together, working with the Absa team, and Venice for helping us out with all the testing. And I very much look forward to seeing you all tomorrow on the Virgin webinar. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this journey in 91 minutes.